To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
So a motion that the agenda for the special council meeting February 27th, 2023 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Cassidy, seconded by Councilor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, welcome council, public, and anybody who is viewing online tonight. Tonight is a presentation on the 2023 budget, which we are hoping for it to be the final budget tonight that staff is presenting to you. So on tonight's presentation, it's just going to be quite a quick outline on what changes happened between draft 1 and tonight's budget. Part 2 will be a new capital project that will be presented to council and mayor, along with the donation requests. And part 3 will be the taxation implications based on the 1.7% that we're requesting. So, excuse me. So part 1, what changed from draft 1 to draft 2 in regards to operating? So there are a couple of large differences that we just wanted to bring to everyone's attention. We had a decrease in policing costs. We had an increase in property rental. So this increase pertains to the train station as we're finalizing another agreement with a leasee. And there is a decrease in regards to the Memorial Arena where that expense has been moved to operating because it is now deemed in operating expenses. There are a couple of things that occurred between last budget and this one that will be addressed a little bit later. There's also some other small little changes that happened within the operating budget. There are a couple of travel and trainings for council that they requested for it to be removed and then again be brought in. So those have been placed back in. The other thing is a couple of small little changes in regards to penalties for taxation, and home for the age went up around $21,000. Any questions in regards to operating before we move on to capital? Okay. So now we'll be discussing new capital projects and the donation requests. So in regards to number 20 on your new capital summary sheet, it's not located up on the screen. So originally, so the amount has changed to $277,100. This is due to the fact.
This is the spreadsheet here?
No, capital. New capital. 2023 new capital. It's in your budget package. Yeah, sorry. So just a slight increase in there. The original amount has gone up, and that's only because we've received a new quote, which included the equipment that needs to be attached to the truck, and that is still being funded through the roads equipment reserve. So that's still all fully funded, and we are good with that. The new capital project pertains to the Memorial Arena with replacing the heat exchanger and ammonia plant, as long as the brine as well. We are estimating it to be roughly $68,000, and we currently have that cost coming from reserves as well. There is the breakdown of definition as to why the project needed to occur within your budget, but we do have the rec manager here that it can explain more of the project if you wish.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we recently, if you don't mind, Council and Mayor, I'll be reading it from my phone because I just came from a medical appointment. Sorry about that. Like on Christmas Eve, we had an enormous wind gust and the blowing snow on the lower roof of the arena, and that caused a huge issue. And the fire services had to be called in on the eve of 24th December. So this resulted in the heating elements got shot in the dehumidifier, and because of the snow that got sucked. So Simcoe, who is our contractor as well and is an authorized regulatory body, ORFA, the Ontario Recreation Facilities Association, and TSSA, who takes care of the safety of ammonia plants in different arenas. Like Simcoe is their contractor who has been our contractor as well. So they have told us to reduce operation cost and ongoing changes which happens every year to change the location of the dehumidifier. We also had a current problem where the snow melt pit and our brine inhibitor was creating a problem. So when they came here, they found due to excessive usage over the last couple of years, which is rather 10 years, there has been a huge leakage found in the brine inhibitor and the heat exchanger, which is the reason we are having to change this. Initially, we thought we might do parts change or just welding it, but according to Simcoe, it is not a viable option because we might run into the same problem. And besides running into the same problem, because it deals with ammonia, which is a very toxic gas for the community, they do not want to leave it, and if we do not do that, we might get a red flag from TSSA and ORFA. Thank you.
Any questions on that, Council? Councilor Bloom.
What is the age of the ammonia plant? Like, how old is the plant itself? I know it's changed out 15, 20 years ago, but I'm just, what's the life expectancy of it right now?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, it's same like any mechanical part. Like it depends on how you use it, and I would just bring it up that my staff has been doing a great job in regularly upkeeping the plant, doing regular checks, and Simcoe, who is our contractor, does annual maintenance. But you just cannot predict. Yes, there is a life expectancy of something, but still you cannot. Like normally in normal scenario, it's 10 to 12 years, but we have been doing it for 15 years, which has been a good result from what we have installed.
And the heat exchanger itself, how old was that?
I will have to look into the papers for that, but right off the top of my head, it was, I believe, 8 and a half, 8 years. Please don't quote me on that. I'll have to go back and check my papers.
Okay. Was there any issues before with that it was a vent or something that got filled with snow?
So the problem is it sucks in. So what happens is when, because we create a lot of heat inside the ammonia plant, the dehumidifier kind of keeps the humidity out and throws out the heat. So what happened with the snow blowing into the suction heater, it blocked off the heater, creating internal heat to raise a fire alarm and creating a heat around the smoke detectors. And if that happens, it automatically turns the plant down. So that is what happened.
I actually remember the winds now, it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
All went off. So now it's a checklist, like they're keeping an eye on it.
We constantly we have a checklist which we have to follow. We have a black book. Like anybody who goes through a ORFA certification has to attain that course and know that there is a black book, has to be written in a black pen. And so we have a checklist which is followed, like weather expectancy, we cannot do that. Like we do not know when the snow will blow, right, and in which direction, so that becomes a challenge at times. Thank you.
Does the work plan for the off-season when it's not in use?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, we'll have to do it in the off-season because we need to keep the plant shut. And while we are in this discussion, I would just like to thank the fire department for coming in during the Christmas Eve. Thank you so much.
All right, back to you, Treasurer.
Thank you.
So that concludes the changes made to capital. In regards to donation requests, so we still have the 2 donation requests that are still up for discussions. These 2 amounts are located currently right now within the budget. Council had directed staff to go out and have conversations with these 2 companies, which I did. I provided all of council and mayor and updated information in regards to that. So Nordic Nomads is currently looking at applying to the MAT Tax Committee in regards to a capital project that they're currently working on. I don't know what that project is at the moment, but that project has nothing to do with the request that they're currently asking from the municipality at this time. Plus, the items that they are requesting from the municipality are not covered under the Sioux under the MAT tax funding agreement. And then in regards to the Quilters Guilds, yes, they have reached out to the hospital foundation in regards to a donation. At this time, the hospital has yet to approve them for any sort of funding. They did approve them the year before, but however, this year, not so much. Any questions? That's correct.
And there's nothing else been asked as of yet?
No.
What is the annual payment of $2,000 for the new vote, the grooming machine? What's the payment? Is it a rental or?
Through
Payment of $2,000 for the new grooming, for purchase or?
through you, Mayor Lawrence, I believe it's for the payment for this year.
So they purchased it, then it seems.
I believe so. Any other questions?
I would just note that the Nordic Nomads run the Jackrabbits program. They purchase skis and boots and poles and make them available to families for that program if they don't have their own skis and boots and poles.
That is correct. It's part of their programming that they do. They don't charge anything extra. It's all part of the registration for them to attend the Jackrabbits and the other levels for skiing.
I think that they're performing a great community function and adding recreation value, especially for families that might not be able to afford otherwise, for the community that we don't have to look after through our recreation program. So I think this is, for me, it's a worthwhile donation. Councilor Lego.
Yeah, I just want to second that. They do a tremendous job out there, especially cleaning the trails and making them usable for the community. So I don't have an issue.
Anything further?
Okay. Now we move on into,
Do you have a question, Councilor?
I know, I was just gonna say, you know, I approve of this. This is one of our signature things of Sioux Lookout. In fact, it's been written up in books about, you know, the knitters and the quilters. It's quite famous. I think it's really worthwhile. Really valuable.
okay, and now on to the last part of tonight's presentation, the taxation implications. So originally in the draft 1 report that was brought to council, we were currently looking at a 4.0% tax increase with all the changes and requests that direction that council gave staff to do. We are now brought it back to a 1.7%. So in regards to a residential single family home, we're looking at an increase of approximately just under $122. In regards to multi-res apartment building, we are looking at an increase of roughly $484. And in regards to commercial, for a small office building, we are looking at an increase roughly of $156.
And just, that's median, those are the median values for each of the classes.
That's correct.
So half are above and half of that is below. Council, questions, comments? Council Gold.
No, that's okay.
I just seen some line somewhere when I was looking through, I'm not sure if it was in the budget book, but it showed residential being at 1.0 and then increase, and then there was like 3 or 4. Yeah, the ratio, the percentage.
The mill rate.
The mill rate?
CAO?
The mill rate no longer exists, it's adopted.
There were different rates for residential,
Those are the-
farmland,
Yeah.
multi-residential.
Those are the tax ratios between the different property classes. Residential is always set at 1, that's the base, and then every other property class is based on that 1.0.
Okay, thank you.
CAO, are there limits? Does the province also set limits on what the ratios can be?
Yes, what they're called is fairness ranges, so we can't go outside of those fairness ranges for the tax ratios, so we're limited as to how high. So for example, if we wanted to raise the commercial tax ratio to, let's say, 3.5, we would be limited to a certain level of ratio.
Councilor Lego.
Just before we conclude, I just have a question regarding recycling. For 2024, will we be paying any recycling fee?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'll direct that to the CAO, as she's involved in more of the conversations than I am.
Through Mayor Lawrence, what we did was we presented a report to council not too long ago to opt into the recycling, to transfer it over to the provincial body. I can't remember. Thank you, circular materials. And so what we did was we put in the budget for about 6 months plus an extra couple months just in case. The transition is supposed to happen as of July 1st, but I was told by AMO to put in a couple extra months of budget for recycling. So if it transfers as of July 1st, then there will be no cost to the municipality moving forward.
Okay. Just since we had our audit recently, they always, at every audit, they tell us that we need to work on our landfill post-closure.
Yep.
I would, maybe at some point, staff could bring some of this money for 2024 in the next budget, that some of this money would be used for post-closure moving forward.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we'll take that under consideration when we bring back our report to council at year end with reference to any surpluses or monies for the new budget.
Anything further, Council? Councilor Costco.
It's just more of a concern, and I've already discussed this with Carly, just the concern of the smaller projects going to long-term debt. I would like to see in the future to make sure that we build our reserves so that we're not doing a $65,000 small project from our long-term debt. Instead, we're having reserves to balance that out. So, presently we're doing, like a roof, and we're doing the baseball replacement, which are both small projects from long-term debt. So I would just like to see us in the future to build our reserves, especially our building reserves, to be healthy, that we could take that from that instead of, from long-term debt, which ends up, so I'd like to see us go in that direction.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything further, Councilor Lego?
2021 surplus?
So we're still working with the auditors in regards to the 2021 surplus, as there's been a couple of changes that have come down over the last couple of days. I can, however, say that we are looking approximately at just over $1 million in regards to the 2021 surplus. There will be a report that will come to council in March as to the recommendations from staff as to what we feel that the surplus should be used for, on top of recommendations that have come from council as well.
Councillor Van Breda.
So that then, can we use that surplus to pay for these long-term debts for the budget for the $429,000? Like, would that be a possibility for that?
So in the report that will come to council in March, it will give council a couple of different options, and then that can all be discussed then.
Just may add to that. Just to add what the treasurer just said, when it says long-term debt, it doesn't necessarily mean it will all be long-term debt. What we continually try and do is look at funding opportunities. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. Funding opportunities to help offset the long-term debt before we even finance it.
Question, when we use the term long-term debt, what is long? Is there a range or not? Just my point being, I like to see the life of the asset. If the loan is over the life of the asset, then it's paid for over that life versus beyond its useful life.
So there's a couple of options that staff look at that then get presented to council. Number one is the interest rate. If we have a very low interest rate, then we look at having it for the life cycle of that particular asset, or a little bit less. You don't want to use it for the whole life cycle. If we have a high interest rate, we want to try and pay it off quicker so that we're not paying as much on interest over a long period of time in regards to that. So there's a couple of different options that get presented to council to help make a decision as to. Sometimes we pick something that's in between, depending on where everything is at the moment.
I'm going to ask another question, but I think I should save it until we have the discussion on debt in March. I'm good, thanks. Anything further, council? And back to you, treasurer.
So that concludes tonight's update on the 2023 budget in regards to the changes that staff is bringing back to mayor and council. Are there any further questions?
I see none. So that concludes your presentation and the budget. Well, a short but good process this year. I think we had quite a few things that came together to form the budget this year, to help with the budget, to hurt the budget. In some ways, inflation. We were battling inflation. But some of the decisions that council has made a year or two ago related to daycare, certainly, that hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone off the budget, and we still have excellent daycare service in Sioux. The policing cost reduction has helped this year, and not to mention staff's hard work in putting all this together. So I think it's a remarkably good budget, especially when I look around regionally northwestern Ontario and beyond. This is an excellent budget rate increase. It's actually, when you look at inflation and you look at the budget, we're into a negative situation because we're increasing less than the rate of inflation. And with the assessment growth last year, 21 to 22, was less than 1% of our, I think it was in the range of $3 million or something. So its assessment growth is almost negative in that sense as well. So great job, council. Council, staff and management. Thank you very much. Councillor Timpson.
I just have one question for the treasurer. Just a little clarification on the library transfer. It's $365,500. Is there? Can you just remind me? I think they asked for $359, but then you had to look at the deficit from last year. Would you be able to just explain that a bit? I likely will be asked about that tomorrow.
So originally, we had presented in the budget what's currently in the budget. The library board had come back, had stated that they were looking at possibly not needing as much taxation revenue for the operating budget. However, a couple of things have changed between that, between the budget presentation and today in regards to their revenue sources and their 2022 deficit. So it was determined to remain the same, and it will then support the library and anything that they need.
Good. All right, council. Motion that council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 11-23, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required for all municipal purposes during the year 2023, and to authorize the levy and collection of taxes for all municipal purposes in the Municipality of Sioux for the 2023 fiscal year, and further, the council authorize the passing of bylaw number 12-23, being a bylaw to set tax ratios for prescribed property classes for municipal purposes for the year 2023. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And bylaws. Bylaw number 11-23, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required for all municipal purposes during the year 2023, and to authorize the levy and collection of taxes for all municipal purposes in the Municipality of Sioux for the year 2023. And bylaw number 12-23, being a bylaw to set tax ratios for prescribed property classes for municipal purposes for the year 2023. That bylaw numbers 11-23 and 12-23 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bone. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bylaw number 14-23, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux February 27th, 2023 special council meeting be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much to everybody. Remarkable. Thank you.